At some point in your credit journey, you were probably told that a credit card was the best way to build your credit. And it is. But today, we're going to talk about the proper way to utilize that card to achieve that excellent credit goal. Thank you for tuning in again to Star Carter, where I run a lifestyle vlog here on YouTube, where we talk about finance, entrepreneurship, being a mother, a wife, all those hats that we may carry if we're over 40. But this channel is not just for the women, it's for the men, it's for anybody that wants to learn about all the different journeys and the phases of over 40. And if you're under 40, hey, get you some free game early in the game. All right, thank you again for tuning in. And if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing to my new channel. That helps me grow, that helps the algorithm if you like, and also clicking the notification bell for whenever I release a new video. I'm gonna try to release these videos at least every other day, and that way I can build up my channel and give you some great educational tips along the way. So thank you again. So as I said in the intro, we're gonna talk about that credit card, the beautiful credit card that you probably was told that would help build your credit. And so I wanna give you just a little bit quick backstory. So I remember when I was 18, and I got all those different credit card applications and pre-approvals in the mail. I don't even know if that's still a thing, but back when I was 18, and you probably, if you're over 40, you probably remember too. And that was like around 1997. I was getting all these different credit cards. That was the same year I was graduating high school, right? So I was getting all these credit card applications and pre-approvals in the mail. And I remember getting my first credit card with Discover, and it was $500 limit. And man, I was over the moon to get this $500 limit on my credit card. And I was like, man, I got $500. I had been working at my job since I was 16. So I had been working at Burger King, my first job, for 2 years. And then I went on to a company called Golden Corral as a waitress. So I was, I didn't have any responsibilities. I still lived at home. So man, I just got extra $500 on top of my checks. So what I did was, hey, I went out and I got me a new car. Well, it wasn't new, but it was new to me. It was a 1990 Toyota Corolla. It was blue. I used to call her the Blue Bird, honey. And anyway, but in order for me to get that car, I didn't have any savings. I wasn't saving any money. And sadly to say, I didn't have anybody to teach me about savings, all right? So I took that credit card and I went to the ATM and I withdrew the $500 as an advance, which I didn't know that's what they called it back then. I took it out as an advance and I went straight on to the dealership and got my blue Corolla. And I maxed that credit card out the very first day. And I did not know that actually ruined my credit right out the gate. Yep, right out the gate, because I maxed that bad boy out. And over time, I was only paying the minimum balance, And I think the minimum balance at that time might have been $25. And that was just a drop in the bucket, right? So I was just paying the minimum balance. And probably, I can't remember, but 9 times out of 10, as I was paying the minimum balance, I probably was turning right back around and spending the money and maxing it back out. Because that's usually what you do, right? And I've done that. Just going forward, I've done that all the way up through my 30s. Because I did not learn the proper way to utilize your credit card, to leverage your credit and get your credit high until probably, sadly to say, maybe 4 years ago. Very sadly to say. And that's because this education does not come in the pamphlet with the credit card. The credit bureaus don't send you any type of information or telling you how to use your credit. All you know is when you go to apply for something and you get denied. And I did a video on that about how you can still have bad credit despite making awesome payment history. And this is one of the things, having your credit cards maxed out. So let's talk about it, all right? So when you get a credit card, right, let me get comfortable. So when you get a credit card, right, usually the limit can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. That's usually how they start you out, especially if your credit is new, fresh, and you don't have any credit experience. They usually give you a small amount just to see how you're going to do with that card, right? So let's break this down into 2 separate people, because that's what's going on. You got the credit card issuer and you got the credit bureau, right? The credit card issuer has its interest as far as what they want you to do with the card, and the credit bureau has its interest of what they want to see what you've done with the card, okay? So when you break down who wants what and what the other person wants, really, the credit bureau is going to win out, okay? Because the credit bureau is what sets the bar. The credit bureau actually says what you can do and can't do with that card is going to determine if your credit is good or if your credit is bad, okay? So, but the credit card company is like, hey, we want you to spend this money and please carry a balance. Because if you carry a balance, we're making money on whatever interest rate that we gave you, right? So they want you to carry a balance. Now, they don't want you to max it out because that kind of looks scary to them too now, because they're like, oh Lord, she might have maxed this card out and can't afford to pay it, right? So it's scary the closer you get to that limit with them too. Now, I don't want you to think that that's what they want you to do, but they do want you to use it and carry a balance, because carrying a balance is how they make money. They do not make money every time you pay it back off. You're what's considered like a dead account, because if you're using it and paying it back off, they're not making any money off of you. You're getting whatever rewards, whatever perks or whatever for free. And they don't want that. They want you to carry a balance, okay? But the credit bureau on the other end says, okay, you can carry a balance, but we don't want to see that balance over 30% of utilization. So what that means is, if you have $1,000 limit, then we don't want to see no more than $300 reported on your actual statement that is coming from the credit card issuer to us. We want to see 30% or less. And if it's under 30% or less, then that can make your credit score go up, or it can keep it even keel. But when you get over 30%, 35, 40, 50% and higher, all the way up to maxing that credit card out, you are creeping up into the danger zone. You're creeping up into the danger zone of your credit score tanking. And the reason why is because now you are gradually looking like a risk. You're looking like you're not using your credit card in the intended manner. You may have financial issues where you're using your credit to actually live on. And so the credit the credit bureau is now looking at you like, I wonder if Star is able to pay her bills, because she's got this card maxed out and she's done kept it maxed out for a long time. So I wonder. And also the credit card issuer is looking at, Star has this credit card maxed out. She pays her minimum balance, but that's all she does. So we're probably not going to raise that limit. We're not going to give her any more credit. We'll just keep her at that $500 or that $1,000 and just pray to God that she doesn't get a 30-day late or a 60-day late, or that she doesn't get late at all. Because now when you're at that max, boy, they all sitting there kind of with they, gritting their teeth, because they're wondering, are you okay? And there's some of us that really is, because one thing about the credit bureau, they do not know what's in your checking account. They do not know what's in your savings. They do not know what's in your investments. They do not know what's in your IRAs, your 401ks. They have no idea what your actual financial standing is. All they know is your credit card is maxed out. And to them, that means that either you don't have the money and you're using your credit card, or you are overspending, and or you just not using it right. Either way, it doesn't look good. However they figure it out, however they rationalize it, it still does not look good. So what you want to do is you want to keep that credit card down on the 30%. So let's talk about the two main components, right? We have a due date and you have a statement date. So let's talk about that. Your due date is the time that the credit card issuer says that this is the very last day that you can make your credit card payment without a late fee, without a late penalty, without anything late, right? And this is the last day that you can pay as much as your balance is, right? To avoid interest. So say for instance that in your credit card cycle could have been 28 days, okay? So in the 28 days that they calculated, right, they can say, okay, you got this amount of time and you can spend, you can run this card up, or you can use this card, right? So say you use the card, say you got the $1,000 limit, and you use the card, and say you spend about, let's just say $700, okay? So that means you only got $300 available. So that is over the 30%, it's over half, it's over half. So the credit card is gonna, gather up all those transactions, and they're gonna give you an old due date, right? And so the due date is gonna say, okay, you can make the minimum payment of, let's just say $35, or you can pay that whole balance off, right? So the credit card company is really and truly hoping that you pay on the card more than the minimum balance, so that you're not as close to the limit, but they want you to keep the balance. They want you to keep some balance so that they can get a little bit of interest, or a lot of interest, depends on what your interest rate is. And normally, if this is probably your first card, the interest rate is probably going to be significantly high, especially if you don't already have credit experience for them to base off of. So they're going to probably give you whatever the default highest interest rate is. So that's probably what your interest rate is going to be starting off, okay? So with that being said, you do not want that to be the trend. You don't want that to always be the trend, right? Because you want the credit card issuer to also see that you're using a credit card good. So if they did give you a $1,000 limit, you want them to increase that limit over time and keep giving you more money. So if they see how good you're spending and how good you're paying on your card every month on the due date, then they will increase that limit eventually. That limit could go up. If you're already at 1,000, they may give you increments of 500, or they may give you increments of 1,000. It just depends on what your debt to income is too, because they're going to ask you, what do you make in a year? Are you a 40K, 50K, 60K salary? And they're going to also look at your other bills. Do you also have student loans? Do you also have other credit cards? They're going to look at all that, right? So they're going to give you amount of credit based on what you already have. So what they trust you to have. But if you pay that credit card good, they may still increase your credit because you have shown that you're responsible with the credit that they have given you, right? So that's how you build your credit with the actual credit card company. But that's not building your credit with the credit bureau unless you are keeping the credit card in the utilization rate that the credit card company wants you to be at, right? So the credit card company, like I said, wants you to carry a balance. It doesn't have to be maxed out, but they prefer you carry a balance because they can get interest off of you, because they are business at the end of the day. But here's what the credit bureau say. This is where the statement comes in, right? So after the due date, you make your payment, whether that's the minimum or you pay it off, right? Usually if your statement, if your due date, let's just say your due date is on the 17th. Usually your statement is gonna run 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 or 7 days after that, right? It's gonna be in that same window. So you got your due date, and then you're gonna have your statement date a few days after that, right? So what the statement date means, this is the day that the credit card issuer is gonna report to the credit bureau what you've done. Now, and not necessarily what you've done, like you're spending, what you spend it on, but what is your balance in relation to your limit. So what is your balance? So in the credit module, what makes a credit score? We know 35% is your payment history, and 30% is the amount you owe, or what is the amount of available credit to the actual credit limits. That's what they want to know. So that's those two things right there makes up 65% of the 100% that makes your actual credit score. So 30% of that. So when you're looking at revolving credit, credit cards, lines of credit, that is what makes up that other 30%. They want to know how much money do you still have available in contrast to what you've actually spent, right? Because credit cards is what they consider an open line of credit. That's an open line of credit. A car payment, student loans, personal loans, anything that you cannot get money back as you pay it and you don't get it back, that's called a closed-end loan. So those are installment loans. So those loans, you can't actually go and get money back off of them like you do a revolving, like a line of credit. A line of credit is your credit card. As you pay it, that available credit comes back to you. Same things with lines of credit, right? Overdraft protection. Those things are considered open lines of credit. So if you got an overdraft protection on your checking account, if you have an overdraft protection, like say on, usually you see it more on checking accounts when you have an overdraft protection. Those type of things are considered lines of credit, and because you have to apply for it. So if you max out not just the credit cards, but if you max out your lines of credit to the max, it has the same weight. It's going to have that same weight because it's in the same scoring module of the 30% that makes up your credit score. It's looking at those things. So lines of credit, credit cards, all the revolving, it looks at the limit versus the amount that you spent, right? So those things are going to run together. Just think about that. It's going to run together. They're looking at those two things. Versus your car payment, they're looking at how much did your car actually get financed, the length of time that it's financed, right? And making sure that you're making those on-time payments every month. And that's going towards the 35% payment history. It's also going towards the 15% length of payment, right? The history of how long. So if you got a brand new car for like 6 or 7 years or however long, then if you make those on-time payments every month, that's going to also make your credit score good. But you can't borrow back off of it. So it's not revolving. So once you actually pay that car off, your credit is going to actually go down a little bit because you're going to lose that account. That account is going to get closed off your credit. So your credit score is probably going to go down a little bit because that's a length of 7 years or 6 years or however long you had that car finance of credit history that's going to go away. It's going to get closed out. And it's going to still look as good credit. It's going to, because when other people look at your credit, they're going to say, hey, Star had a car that she had for 7 years. She always paid on time. She never was late. And she paid it off. It's showing as a good debt on her credit. And so the other lenders are going to look at that and they're going to be like, hey, we're gonna give her a chance as well, right? But like I said, on the credit module on the scoring, it's only good on your credit and actually affecting your score while it's active. But once you pay it off and it's closed, it no longer affects your score. It's actually going to bring it down maybe a little bit, but it'll rebound back, right? So, but with credit cards and lines of credit, right, that score can keep going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, depending on how much of that card are you actually utilizing, right? So it can be a wave. It could be a wave because you're actually, it's open-ended. So you can actually have the limit maxed out, or you can like maybe get your income taxes or some type of big windfall and pay all those cards off or pay all that line of credit off. And then all of a sudden your score can go all the way up again. It's really crazy how credit cards work or lines of credit work on your actual credit in your credit bureaus, right? So the statement date, back to what we were talking about, the statement date actually tells the credit bureau how you have used that credit. That's what the statement date does. The statement date says, okay, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, I am credit card lender, Stars credit cards, and okay, so on this date, right here, the day is the The day is the 14th, July 14th. So it's saying, okay, on July the 14th, this is the statement date for Miss Carter right here, and I'm Star, the credit card holder, and I am reporting what her balance is. Okay, so she has $1,000 limit. She opened this card with us back in, let's say she opened this card in January. So she's had the card roughly 7 months. So she opened the card in January. So they're going to put that on there. She's got a $1,000 limit. This is her interest rate. And as of today, July the 14th, her balance is $700. All right. So they reporting this to the credit bureau. She made her minimum payment, but that was all she made. She only made the minimum payment. So the credit card now is over 50% of the limit. So it's definitely over 30% of what the credit bureau is interested in. So they're like, oh snap. Her getting the credit card at $1,000 limit back in January, and she hadn't went over that limit, was good. But now that she's over the limit, let's bring a score down maybe 30 points. So let's bring it down maybe 50 points. Because you're starting to look like a risk because you're getting up there at that high credit score. That high limit. You're getting up there, right? So they're like, oh man, she might be a risk. We might have to bring that credit. We gonna have to bring that credit score down. Okay, so let's just see what she does next month. And so that's the cycle. So if I don't pay that $700 off or get that utilization back under the 30%, my score is going to continue to drop just a little bit, just depending on what my habit is. Or it may just stay stagnant and not even move. Because if I keep it at 700, don't never let it get any lower or don't get any higher, it's just going to stay. But if I were to pay that card back down to 300 the next month, and I give the credit card company $400, right? And when the statement rolls around, so the credit card company is happening because I'm still running the balance and they're getting the interest. And so when they report on that statement the next month, right? And I give them $400. And now my balance is only $300. Well, the credit bureau is going to be like, oh, yay, she's gotten it back down under 30. She's got it right at 30%. So let's give her a thumbs up. Let's give her a boost in her score. Let's give her 10 points, right? Because if you know anything about credit, your credit go down 50 points, 20 points, 100 points. Your credit goes down quicker than you build it back up, right? So the points don't equate. So if they took 30 from you, they're not gonna give you the 30 right back. You got to build those bad boys back up, right? Little bit by little bit. So they're gonna give you, like I said, they may give you 10 points for that, right? So like, okay, so it's going back up. So let's repeat that. Okay, so next month, okay, I didn't use the card anymore. I just kept that balance at 300. So when this due date comes back around again, it says, okay, now you owe $300. Your minimum is $25, or you can pay completely off. Now let's say I pay that bad boy completely off, back to zero balance. And when the statement rolls around again, it reports $0. So the credit card company's like, oh snap, she wasn't in a financial bind. She paid that bad boy back off. Okay, let's give her 2 thumbs up and let's boost her credit score by another 10 points. So let's give her 15 points because she did good, right? So that's what it is. It's one of those things, like you got to keep that credit card where the credit bureau wants. Of course, you want to pay the minimum payment or pay it off, but the credit card company is looking at the utilization. How much of that credit is you actually using? Because that makes up 30% of your score. So I know this video is running a little bit long, so I'm gonna come back with a part 2, and I'm gonna actually pull up one of my credit card statements, and let's really look at some more. I'm gonna give you this really good credit card tip on how you can really finagle them and get that credit score really up. And I mean, this is gonna be some really good game right here. So you wanna come back. So yeah, I'm about to get up out of here now because it is running up on 25 minutes. But the next video, I'm gonna pull up one of my credit card statements, and we're gonna look at this thing, we're gonna analyze this thing, and we're gonna come up with a strategy on how you can get that credit score up, especially if you've been stagnant or if it's just been lingering around on the low side. And let's look at those lines of credit. Let's look at that and strategize on what we can do to get that score up. So thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate all the love. If this information is something that you're interested in, please consider liking and subscribing to the video. Please leave a comment. It really, really helps the algorithm on YouTube to push my videos out more to people so that they can get this awesome information as well. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.